Compressor's running over in the other room. We got the Jeep in here today, and I've got some wild packing in this box, something I ordered, and we're going to see how this works. So, like I said, the Jeep's in here, and I ordered the brace, the steering box brace from Iron Man Fab 4x4. I could have went with the cheaper one. There's cheaper ones available. I've heard all the hardware on them is pretty well junk, and yeah, you can buy the bracket and go through buying all the hardware and everything, and yeah, you'll save some money, but I'd rather just buy the one that comes with the good grade 8 hardware and be done with it. So let's unbox this and see what's in here, because I haven't even looked yet other than opening it. So they have got some wild packaging. I'm not sure what this is. I'm sure it came off something they ordered in, but pretty thick stuff. And there's a small package. That is all the grade 8 hardware, I'm sure of it. And oh, there's your bearing right there for the bottom of the sector shaft. And I'll dump everything else out. There's nothing else in there. Okay, that's gone. Box. Oh, hey, oh. There's the most important thing right there, the sticker. So they've got that all wrapped up in saran wrap. So help if I had a sharp knife, wouldn't it? And there it is. So that's the bottom of it right there, because this is where your bearing would mount. And this would be the top of it, and that's the part that clamps the, oh, you guys can't see that. Back up here a little bit. There we go. So this is the bottom of it. This is where they clamp the bottom of the power steering gearbox. And then this bracket down below is on these sliders for alignment, because that's where you're going to mount that bearing at that holds that bottom of that sector shaft on the power steering gearbox. So I already know we're going to have one problem, because I'm pretty sure on the passenger side of the Jeep on this one, I'm going to find out that one of these holes right here doesn't have the backing nut anymore that was on with the factory anti-sway bar. If you guys watch one of my other videos, we done the upgraded Grand Cherokee sway bar, because it's a little bit bigger in diameter, and I mounted it further forward. And so that'll probably go back into these holes here. So we'll play along and see what I have to modify to make this work, but it's going to work. So before we go under the truck, well, Jeep, I can't even remember what I'm working on half the time. I got to show you what I've done. First of all, when I finished some of the mounts on the flatbed the other day before we painted it, I used the junk box here on the welding bench to make some of my brackets. And the same goes for this particular circumstance. I went and got a nut that matches the bolts, and yes, because it's on a 2000 Jeep, it's a metric nut. Then I welded this little piece of rod to it and bent it in such a way that I can fish it through one of the holes of the body. And I think, I haven't done it yet obviously, but I think I can catch this with the bolt, and this rod will go against the side wall of the frame and keep it from turning. So we're going to go under the Jeep here in a minute. I got to take the pitman arm off, because that you have to do. You have to take that nut off. I got to take the bolts loose for the Grand Cherokee anti-sway bar that I put on. So I got to get everything out of the way to mount this thing. So next time you guys see, we'll be under the Jeep trying to mount that plate. I just want to show off my little piece that I made out of junk out of the scrap box. And we'll see if it works here in a minute. Okay, so I'm up in here. I've got the pitman arm off. It's it right there. Took the nut off right here. I've got my anti-sway bar loose so I can get the bracket underneath of it on both sides. At least I think I can. There we go, yeah. So we're going to try and put this bracket in place. And I took the bottom bracket off of it. All I've got left is the clamp for the power steering gearbox. So I'm going to try and maneuver it around it, but it's super loose. So we'll see if I can make this work. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I might have to take this anti-sway bar completely off. Oh, come on now. Right there, got it. So I'm gonna tuck that underneath there. And yeah, it's up in there. So now it's time to get the hardware together. So the cool part about having a winch bumper with no winch is it's great at holding all the parts you need until you need them. You probably ought to get a winch one of these days, but it's not really been detrimental. So this side over here should be fairly easy because all the original fasteners, everything I need is in there. I say that, and I don't know how well the anti-sway bar is going to work just yet. Now, this kit did not come with any instructions, but they did have an instructional video on YouTube that I took a few minutes to watch. And basically, the biggest thing I got from the whole video is leave everything loose until you have everything on here. And then you can tighten everything down. There's a lot of it doesn't fit well if you don't. So just get it all finger tight and stop there. So there's those two bolts in. Now I'm concerned about how well this is going to work because this is one thing. I don't know how well my anti-sway bar is going to mount up. I may have to bend that or something. So my little piece here, the hole that I'm going to use to fish it in is now covered by this plate, so that makes things a little interesting. But I'm going to see if I can't fish it down in there, and I can't really show you guys because it's tight up in there, but we'll see if it works, because right now there is no nut up in there because that one busted out a long time ago when I was taking stuff off. So I'll have to do a lot of this by feel, find a big hole here because there was one there. Maybe. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Okay, I know where it's at now. So, down in there, and can I see it? I can see it at the start. Can I get it threaded? That's the next question. See, I can't really hold pressure down on it, so I gotta lightly, looky there. And so as soon as it comes to where it's getting tight, that ought to pull that back in there. Yep. So now it don't stick out of the frame anymore either because I pushed it back in. So now we're going to be down to just lining up those for the anti-sway bar. Now I've got me a couple pry bars here, and I'm going to use one. Kind of do this with this bracket. I'm going to try not to mess my threads up, but just trying to stretch this bracket a little bit here. And maybe I'll get on the other side of this right here. Oop, maybe not. This is going to be the hard part. Well, the best way to help get it lined up was a ratchet strap back to the track bar. So now that that's over with, we'll pull that loose. So we've got lined up, got the bolts in. The only problem is me getting the bolts in it. It's putting kind of a wedge on it. This thing might not be all that movable, even though everything else is only hand tight. So we'll just have to mess with it, see if I can get it all lined up. So the next trick is to put this bracket here on that pillar block and get it all put together. So here's that bracket here, and it's open up on the one end so the pitman arm can still turn and do what it needs to do, and then the pillar block mounts on that. So, but I gotta tighten this because that's not tight. I just got it up on there kind of hand tight, and it still needs to be torqued down. So I'm gonna tighten this. I'm gonna mount that bracket up there and get the pillar block mounted on it and leave everything loose, and then we'll see where we're at. So you can't tell much about it from here, but it's on here. Here's my pillar block right here with that piece in it. Allen wrenches are tightened down. Everything's tightened down. I tell you what, they say online when you watch the video to keep everything loose when you're doing it. I don't know how, because the back two that clamp the steering gearbox, you just better have to tighten those ahead of time before you put everything up in there. But the bracket's going across, all the bolts are tight. It still worked with my modification using the Grand Cherokee anti-sway bar. So now that everything's tightened up, I'm gonna give it a good grease job underneath here for the suspension components, just because I haven't done that in a while. And then we'll take it for a drive and see how well it does. In case you're wondering, yes, Dad's painting flowers. But I took it for a test drive. I think it took like 70% or maybe even better of the slop out of the steering wheel. So, but my opinion really doesn't matter because I don't drive it every day. So I'm gonna try and get the opinion that does matter for you guys. So let's see what we can do. Well, it's the next day. I'm getting ready to head to the garage this morning. Drove this thing all the way back here last night on the highway. It's about 26 miles between here and the garage. And I set the cruise. Like, I've been scared to death that, yes, it still has cruise. I've been scared to death to hit the cruise in this thing for the longest time on the highway. But I set the cruise at over 60 miles an hour. I could not get my wife to be on camera. She didn't even want her voice to be on camera, but she did drive it last night. And she said she could instantly tell from the time she started the Jeep up and grabbed the steering wheel. So, I guess it's a success. I can't talk. So, I was worried because, you know, it is a $300 part. And even if you buy one of the cheap Amazon ones, which might work, I don't know that they don't. I don't know that they're any better than this or worse. All I know is I went with this one. Good hardware. I will say that. Everything was included. But it's 300 bucks. And I'm like, man, spend 300 bucks and then it just barely work or not really work. Or it made a huge difference. Like, I can't even, it's probably more than 80% now I've driven on the highway. I mean, it's a lifted Jeep. It's going to have some play in the steering. It's amazing. So, I would recommend, if you're having issues with your steering, you know, being like quarter of a turn of the wheel and it being that sloppy, get this kit. It'll fix most of your problems, unless you've got like a loose track bar or something. You know, always don't throw parts of stuff. Diagnose. But big success. I recommend it. Guys, thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out, and we'll see you guys on the next one.